King.
And good evening. Breaking news. Breaking news. I told you every show now, I got to be like the network news and the local news. Every time they open up, it's breaking news. Till we have breaking news. Might be 10 hours old. It might be 2 days old. It might not have happened yet, but it's breaking news. But welcome uh, to the Howard Eskin Show and Riding with the King. I see there's people from different parts of the country staying in my lane, already in from Arizona. Uh, Patty's local, so that's all right. And I see, who is it, Ted? Ted's jumped on board, but we get people from all, and Jason, 18. Want to say hello to everybody that's already joined the show. We've got a lot to talk about tonight with the Eagles. There are really some issues, and with the Phillies for sure. I'm telling you, the Phillies, most of the fans that I see on my chat line are not happy. But let me first, or second, or third, or let me just tell you, it's important that I tell you, one of my partners, the company and the person that helps present this program, and that's Stillwell Financial Advisors. Jeff Stillwell knows his stuff, really knows his stuff, and it's changing. I mean, all you have to do is listen to what's going on in the, in the country, in the world, and you need somebody to help you get ready for your future. And Jeff Stillwell can do that. Give him a call. Really knows what he's talking about, and he's a really good guy. His number 732-343-0813. Jeff Stillwell Financial Advisors. Tonight we have another special guest, but I always try, and I think 99.9% of the time I achieve that. Another great guest, Doug Pederson, who will always be always always be remembered as a special person in Philadelphia sports. Always be remembered as a special person, and he will be on, and we're going to cover a lot of things. Obviously, the memories, this Eagles team, the future, his future. I'm going to ask him all those questions. So Doug will join us. I will also talk about, as I said, the Phillies. We'll talk about the Eagles and a couple other things that I might drop in. It's a waste of time to talk about the Sixers. Okay, so let's just get that out of your mind. Just kick them to the curb. I see somebody has joined the show from Toronto. A lot of local people, but a lot of people from outside the area. And in Toronto's case, even though even though the guy in the White House wants to take over Canada, as well, he wants to take over the whole world. It's still not in the United States at Toronto. All right. I also, before we get to Doug Pederson, I am excited to tell you about a new partner in this program, a new partner, and it couldn't be nicer. I was I didn't know them. I've always seen them as I've driven up and down Route One. And one day I stopped in, and all of a sudden, bang! It's just wow! What nice people! Welcome to our newest sponsor, and our newest sponsor is Thomas Chevrolet. That's our newest sponsor, located 1263 West Baltimore Pike in Media. It's right there on West Baltimore Pike is Route One. It's a family-owned business, and that's the one thing that I noticed when I walked into the dealership. The owner's always there. The family who works with the owner, his people in his family, that his general manager. It's a family-run business, but I am right now driving the Chevrolet Equinox. It's the sport model, and I didn't know what to expect. I am so impressed with the vehicle, with the ride of the vehicle, all the stuff that goes on in these vehicles now, the technology. But it's a family business that's celebrating 38 years in business. That's important. That's important. And right now, and you see if you're looking at it on the screen, what's available is up to $14,000 in savings. 0% financing for up to 60 months is available. Obviously, they can tell you about it. Hard for me to explain it to you. But the vehicle that I'm driving is the mid-level SUV. Corvettes, that's another thing. I drove a Corvette when I was a kid. Uh, you want to get a Corvette? By the way, there's no need to hassle or haggle with Thomas Chevrolet people. And Corvettes, you can get a Corvette there, Equinox, Silverado, Diverse, or Tahoe. And with the Corvette, Thomas Chevrolet is a certified Corvette specialist dealer. Thomas Chevrolet. I saw a couple of really cool ones in the showroom. Thomas Chevrolet also has great service department. I met a bunch of guys down there. I went down to the service department, wanted to check that out. And for all makes and models, they'll do service on all makes and models. It's tops in the tri-state area. Thomas Chevrolet has everything you need. And I'm telling you, this vehicle I am really impressed with. Besides, obviously, the people at the dealership and the way they run that dealership, friendly as soon as you walk in, great selection of new and also a great selection of pre-owned vehicles. 1263 West Baltimore Pike in Media. Here's a number to call, 610-566-8600, 610-566-8600, or check them out online. And you can check them out in person. I would suggest that. Check them out in person. But online, it's thomaschevy.com. Great people. Also, another great partner of the program is Piazza Property Pros. And I got to know these people. See, I don't partner up with people unless I get to know them and I get to know who they are. And I get to know that they're good people and they run a good business. And that's what Piazza Property Pros does as well. 25 years of experience. If you want your front yard taken care of to make it look really nice, or your backyard, whatever it is, whether it's a pool installation, whether it's pool maintenance, landscaping, hardscaping, fencing, whatever it is. When I say 25 years of experience, they don't subcontract. So they do the work themselves. Unmatched customer service. Piazza Property Pros will deliver exceptional results. Give them a call, check it all out, get a free consultation. Not everybody does that either. 610-566-2608. That number again, 610-566-2608, or check them out on the internet, piazzaoutdoor.com. And we have and I always try to get great guests and people that really can kind of tell you what the hell is going on and the way they look at things. And that person today is former Eagles Super Bowl coach. And I'll never forget that Super Bowl. And there's moments in it, other than the Philly special and all that. And our guest on this show is Doug Pederson. And it's always great to talk to Doug. There's so many things I remember from that Super Bowl. And then people always point to the Philly special, which I guess is an iconic play and, all that. But I'm going to tell you, before I even get to that play, I want to thank you. And I know you're going to have some great insights. But I remember a play during the season because I was standing there, which won you the division. That was against the Rams, remember, in L.A. That won the NFC East, that win. And I remember Carson Wentz walking over to the sideline with a little bit of a limp. And as we found out, he had a torn ACL. Did you know he had a torn ACL when he came up? You knew he was hurt, right?
Yeah.
But he didn't say anything,
I could tell he was hurt because he stayed in for a few more plays. And obviously we scored on that drive and he comes off the field and right away he was mentioning, that something was going on with his knee. And, I still got to coach a football game. So he went with the medical team and the medical staff and went into the locker room. And it wasn't until, a few minutes, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes later that I knew that he had a torn ACL and he would be out for the rest of the game.
Okay. Fourth down. I know I see him come over to the sidelines because I'm not that far away. And I see him come over and he throws a touchdown pass which really kind of helped secure the game a little bit more. It's amazing that he did everything he had to do. But I remember that play in that season, and obviously the Super Bowl had so many plays. The fourth down, the Zach Ertz, and then the touchdown, which I think they reviewed the touchdown that he scored. Nowadays, that may not have been a touchdown with the way the rule is, because you got to secure the ball through the ground.
Right.
And I don't know that he secured it through the ground. So there's so many different things that have happened. But it's amazing when you think back about that. The experience of that for Philadelphia fans, you'll never forget. Do you I know that when people talk to you, they talk about the Philly special. Do you remember that so many different times, that experience of that season and certainly that Super Bowl?
Howard, first of all, thanks for having me on again, and obviously get a chance to visit with you and catch up a little bit. So it's a great opportunity for me. And thinking back on that Super Bowl, and I get reminded all the time. My wife and I were just overseas in Hawaii for about a week and a half, and so many people would come up to me, and they were Eagles fans, and talk about the Philly special, talk about that Super Bowl, and where they were and what they were doing and all that kind of stuff. And it brings back so many great memories. And even today, when I get that little nudge to go back to that football game, I do remember a lot of those plays that were big plays. And again, not just the Philly special, but you hit on it. You hit on Corey Clement's catch in the back of the end zone for a touchdown, and then there's the 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter that extended the drive to Zach Ertz, and then of course Zach Ertz's touchdown catch late in the game to put us back up. I think of the field goal that Jake hit. He's a rookie kicker, kicked a 41, 42, 43-yard field goal at the end of that game to put us up 8. I mean, those are all big moments. Then the strip sack on Brady, with Brandon Graham, and another rookie, Derek Barnett, scoops that ball up. And just so many plays in that game that helped us win, that I'm so reminded of and so appreciative of to this day.
Outside of the Philly special, which obviously you can't forget that whole sequence of things. And by the way, I may have told you this before. I'm listening on the headphones, and Merrill Reese, who's always beyond conservative, says, "Mike, you're talking to Quick. I think they should go for the field goal here." And I could see you talking, and I couldn't hear what you said. There's too much noise there. I'm obviously not close enough. And I said, I told the producer, I said, Joe McPeak, I said, "Joe, tell Merrill they're not going for the field goal." So it was crazy. But is there a play in that game other than the Philly special that comes, let's say, second or third, that comes to the top of your mind?
The first one that always comes to my mind, and the Philly special is always a great play, but it's that 4th and 1 that we threw that pass. We got 1 yard. We actually completed it for 2 yards. We got the 1 yard to Zach Ertz, and to me, that was more of the play of the game, because if you remember, New England went down and took the lead on the last drive. They scored. We get the ball back. We're on our end of the field with 5 minutes or so left to go in the game, and it's 4th and 1 again. And so to me, I think about that play, and that play, if we don't execute that play on 4th down, they get the ball short field. They just scored. We really haven't stopped them. They really haven't stopped us. And they could have easily gone down and scored another touchdown, which would have put us down by 2 scores. And then who knows what happens after that. So to me, that was really more the play of the game that helped us win that football game than any other play in that Super Bowl.
Okay, when you look at today's Eagles team, and I'm sure you may not watch all the games, but I'm sure you do see a lot. What do you see as the challenge? And you came off a Super Bowl win, and the next season was tougher. So is it coming off the Super Bowl win that now to duplicate that, there's so many things that did happen that have to happen? Is it that more of the problem this year with the Eagles, or did you see other issues with the Eagles this year?
Well, I think that's part of it early in the season. I think that, and not knowing the roster and not knowing where guys' health was going into the season. But if you remember, even back going into the 2018 season, we still didn't have Carson Wentz. We still didn't have our starting quarterback, and so we go in with Nick Foles the beginning of the 18 season, and who knows where the Eagles were this year? It appeared that they were pretty healthy and all of that. But listen, you're also playing a championship first place schedule too, so you're getting everybody's best each week, and that's a challenge, and that's why I appreciate what Coach Reid has done in Kansas City and what Bill Belichick did in New England. And you look at even some of the in teams in the past that have gone to multiple Super Bowls, particularly back to back. I mean, we went back to back in Green Bay when I played there, and it's tough. It is a challenge, and it's a mindset that the players and coaches have to have. You can't. There's no room for complacency. There's no room for excuses and so and so's hurt and we got to play a certain way or whatever. You just can't do that. And the players have to understand that. It starts with, obviously, as head coaches, it starts with us and that communication and really begin that in the off season. You got to hit the reset button, I think human nature says that, hey, look what we've done. We're the reigning Super Bowl champs. And people pat you on the back. And again, I think you do get a little complacent. You do get a little, away from what got you there the year before. And sometimes that affects you. But the teams that can move on from that, the leaders of your football team, the veteran guys that know how to do that, I think that's where you see multiple teams and back-to-back years go to Super Bowls.
When I had Kurt Warner on and Chris Sims has probably been the most, and I want to say honest, it's just, hey, it's his opinion. People say, well, he never got to a Super Bowl or he never won a Super Bowl. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl, and he's one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played. So, but he knows the game. And they looked at Jalen Hurts, and they both kind of referenced the fact that when he gets out of the pocket a little too quickly, it doesn't seem like he's, in their opinion, comfortable in the pocket. He really doesn't look down the field and kind of, he doesn't look to find open receivers. He kind of locks in. And what do you see that Jalen Hurts does that if you were the coach, you would try to help him be better at?
Well, the games I've seen, the games I've watched, and throughout the postseason here, teams that have had success, I think they find a rhythm early in the football game, in the passing game. And listen, I understand, the Eagles had some injuries in the offensive line throughout the course of the year, and they weren't the same running the football as they were a year ago. And a part of that was Jalen Hurts running too, and obviously he was a little nicked up a year ago because of some of that running. And so the other thing I think too, you just can't put everything on one person. I think it's obviously the quarterback is the most important, and he's the leader of your football team, but it's not about one guy. It's about the entire team. And to me, it looked like there was a little bit of miscommunication between Jalen and his receivers. There could have been some rhythm and timing involved in the passing game that was a little bit off. And listen, I'm not in the meetings, and I don't want to speculate because I've been there. I understand what coaches go through trying to put a game plan together. And really, as coordinators and as play callers too, you start searching for a lot of things that to try to get your team into that rhythm. And it becomes difficult and it becomes a challenge. And again, you're playing some really good opponents, but I don't want to sit here and make excuses, but at the same time, the players have to go out and they got to feel comfortable that the game plan is is there for them to win a football game. If it's not, then there has to be some communication by the players, especially your quarterback, with your coordinator, with your head coach, and try to work through a lot of things and try to figure stuff out.
You know, when you look, and I'll never forget the Super Bowl 52 team. I thought, in so many different locker rooms, at so many different sports, but I'll just deal with the Eagles. It was the best chemistry that I think I've ever been around in a locker room that year, 2017, the Super Bowl 52, that I've ever been around. How important, and I don't know, it seems like, well, A.J. Brown is not, he wouldn't have fit in that locker room, as great a player as he is. How important, and you kind of touched on it a little bit there, how important is that chemistry to kind of having the success that you really want to have?
Oh, I think it's almost everything that you do is the chemistry, and that's just not chemistry on offense, but that's chemistry, offense, defense, special teams. That's all three phases. That's your practice squad players. That's the entire organization having that chemistry. And then if you remember back too, when we lost Carson Wentz, out in LA in that Rams game, the next week, our team back then, they didn't bat an eye. They supported Nick Foles. They also understood that it wasn't about one person. Guys stood up, the defense rose up, and played extremely well. Other players really challenged themselves to play at a high level. And that's really what it takes. And it takes everybody, and it takes that unselfishness, I think, by coaches, by players to put together a championship team, to go out and win a Super Bowl. I don't know if that was the case this year in Philadelphia or not. It just appeared that maybe there was something off, with that team. But chemistry, culture, all of that plays a big part in the success. And you go back the year before and you look at that Eagles team, I felt like there was really good chemistry in that roster, in that locker room, and amongst the coaches, and guys were playing with a lot of confidence and swagger. And you just didn't see that this year like you did the year before. And again, not being there, it's hard to speculate and really put a finger on the why.
Well, I don't always think that people should believe what's on social media, but A.J. Brown was pretty clear because he said a lot of the things. So the offense isn't good enough. He didn't identify the quarterback, and I think it really came down to that, but he didn't want to dime out, a teammate, especially the quarterback. However, when a player starts to question what you're doing, how difficult is that for whether it's the offensive coordinator or the head coach? How difficult is that?
That's a hard pill to swallow. When you got a player that's upset and frustrated, and look, he's not the only one that probably felt that way. He's just the only one that came out publicly and said it. And those are the things that you try to guard against, as a head coach. You try to guard against airing out the dirty laundry in the press, in the media, and try to keep things in-house, and try to do your best to internalize everything and really focus on it as a football team, and be part of the solution, not necessarily part of the problem. And let's try to fix it internally. And having conversation. Is he coming up with some play design? Is he suggesting some plays early in the week that we can put in the game plan? Things of that nature that I've been around a lot of great players that have done that. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference when everybody's on the same page and pulling that rope together, that, that's the success that you're going to see. And unfortunately, I think it made it more of a challenge, I think, for coaches and players this year in Philadelphia.
Okay. You were a player for a lot of years. Then you were a coach, whether it was an assistant, then you became a head coach. How much different, and this is really the difficult part, I'm sure, for a head coach, and you probably saw it, in your last year as a head coach. How difficult is it for a head coach to go at the player where years ago, and you played under Don Shula, If Don Shula wanted to say something, he would say something, and you'd say, I just got to shut the bleep up. You would say something. Now, Don Shula is a good example, but a bad example because he was one of the greatest coaches that ever lived. But how difficult then if Nick Sirianni wants to go up at AJ, hey, AJ, just shut the hell up. Just, hey, we're doing the best we can. The quarterback's doing the best he can. Just shut up. But they don't do that. It doesn't seem like they do that anymore. So how difficult, you've been in that situation, how difficult is it for a coach with some of today's players to put the hammer down on that guy?
Yeah, it's obviously a challenge. You want to have, I think in the back of your mind, you want to say all that to a player, but at the same time, you don't want to alienate that guy either. You want to make sure he's a part of your roster. And I think if you go back to 2017-18, our roster could absorb a guy that was disgruntled or a guy. They would handle things amongst themselves. That's where great leadership comes into play. Again, that's when I say it's not about one guy on your team. It's really the whole team, because if somebody is unhappy, then other teammates have to go and have those conversations that coaches can't have with the player. But as a coach, you're trying to keep everybody involved, and you're trying to, come up with a game plan that can get, players a certain amount of touches every week. And listen, sometimes the opponent, they get paid to coach and paid to play too. And if you're a good player, then you should expect to get the best coverage, the best player against you as well. So there's also some of that. But I think, yeah, it is a challenge. It is a challenge as a head coach, as a position coach. You try to handle it that way a little bit, try to call that player in and say, listen, help us be part of our solution. Let's not always go to the media. If you have something, come to me and let's try to figure this thing out together. But I think too, other members of that football team, and sometimes it's the quarterback, maybe sometimes it's an offensive lineman or even a defensive guy, coming across and saying, hey man, let's work on this together. Let's fix this thing. You need to shut your mouth and just play and let the coaches try to figure out what's best for this team.
And in many cases, you have to have the leader on the team. And I don't know, Jalen says he is the leader, but I just don't. I think you got to play. You got to be the best on the field to be the leader. I think by looking at it, and again, my perspective may be different than yours. You got to be best on the field to be the leader off the field. And I don't know if Jalen really can be that leader with some of the things that he hasn't done. Okay, he's won a Super Bowl, got the MVP. I think somebody on the defense, but it doesn't matter who the MVP was. They still won. They won the Super Bowl, and without Saquon Barkley being the player he was, I don't know that all happened. But that's not the point. The point is you had to have leaders, multiple leaders on that Super Bowl team. So when the quarterback or somebody isn't a leader in the locker room, how much more difficult does it make it for the head coach?
It makes it more of a challenge because you want your quarterback to be the guy. You want your quarterback to be the leader. And Jalen, and that's the reason why we drafted Jalen, because of his leadership and because of his, obviously the fact that he's won a lot of games, in college and obviously now in the National Football League. But that's who Jalen is, and you want him to be the leader. But again, when there's so much coming down on him and whether it be the media, the fans, the coaching staff, somebody internally, a player, that starts weighing heavily on a player's shoulders, and it can affect you, mentally, to be the type of person, the type of leader that you can be and want to be. We saw it the year before, but again, everything was going smoothly too, and they were winning a lot of football games by a lot of points, and everything was status quo. It was just, we show up and we're going to win because we're a better football team. Now, when there's adversity, okay, now's the time you need to roll up your sleeves. You need to shut your mouth. You need to go to work. You need to practice every single day, and you got to go figure things out. And that's where I think good culture football teams have success year in and year out, is because of that leadership on your team.
All right, so now I'm going to deal with another team that's now in the playoffs. Denver loses their starting quarterback. similar to your situation, you lost your starting quarterback. And I'll never forget in a news conference, somebody asked if you were going to play, because I don't think Nick in the first playoff game, I don't think he had a good game, although you won the game. Somebody asked you whether you were thinking about starting Nate Sudfeld over, over Nick Foles, which, come on. I mean, the media, some of these media questions are so asinine, it's ridiculous, but, and exists more today than it did before. But what do you tell your team? Sean Payton is a good coach, quarterback coach too, and you played the position, so you know the position. What did you tell your team? And similar to what I'm sure Sean Payton has to tell his team, hey guys, we're going to, you can't, I guess you don't even mention the negative, but what did you do to convince your team that the Eagles could win with the backup quarterback?
I walked into that team meeting room and I said this. I said, one man can make a difference on this football team. I said, but the team is going to make a miracle. And you know, if you remember back then too, we lost Jason Peters, we lost Darren Sproles, we lost Chris Maragos, you know, we lost Jordan Hicks, Carson Wentz, we lost 5, you know, starters amongst others. We started a rookie left tackle in the Super Bowl, you know, and in Holly Pulivati Vaitai, you know, it's just, it's not, again, it's not about one person. And I know Coach Payton is saying the same thing, guys. It's not about Bo Nix. This team has gotten us to where we are today to play in this AFC Championship game. So we need to go out and play as a team. We need to go out and have, you know, Jarrett Stidham's back. We got to go out and support him. He has to play well, but he also understands that he's got to put it into his playmakers' hands. We got to play great defense and give ourselves a chance in the fourth quarter. So for me, it was about that. It was about, you know, one man. Carson Wentz is one man. Jason Peters was one man. But I said, Fletcher, you're part of this team. You know, Malcolm Jenkins, you're part of this team. Jason Kelsey, you're part of this team. So our team is going to make this miracle happen. And that's really what the guys bought into. And that's why we didn't bat an eye, obviously. And again, the leadership rose up that year and in the face of adversity. And you know, we ended up making that miracle that year.
So you got to convince the team it's not the one guy. Their defense is great, but also the coach. And I don't know how much you did this. Maybe will not run some of the plays offensively that he would with Bo Nix because he's a different quarterback. So you've got to change things a little bit. How tempered were you with Nick Foles, and do you think that Sean Payton could be with Stidham?
Well, I'll tell you this, the biggest difference between what Denver's facing and what we faced is we had 3 games left in the regular season to work things out with our backup quarterback. They've got no time. They've got 7 days. And you know, so we had 3 weeks to figure it out with Nick Foles and having history with Nick Foles previously, having drafted him in Philadelphia, having those conversations. And I know Coach Payton is having those conversations with Jarrett right now. He's sitting down and he's going through the game plan. He's saying, hey, what do you like? What do you don't like? You know, let's talk about it now. Let's cross plays out. Let's put plays in that you're familiar with. Don't go be Bo Nix. Trust your guy. All that stuff, right? That's all great. And of course, he has to go out and play well. He's got to take care of the football and he's got to stay positive and ahead of the chains and all that. But again, he has 7 days to get ready, where we had 3 weeks really in a bye week. So we had 4 weeks before things really meant a lot to us that year. So, but yeah, it's just about, you know, the team believing in your quarterback and understanding that he can get the job done. And that's what Denver's faced with, you know, going into this week.
You know, the coaches, and there's 10 coaches that were Mike Tomlin resigned, but he didn't resign. I mean, I'm sure they talked about it and they said, okay, it's time you move on. But 19 years is a long time. There's always an expiration date. So, but how unfair, and you take the job knowing that's going to be the case, I guess. How unfair is it that the head coach almost always takes the hit for results. And I know it's a results-based business. And the owner of Buffalo said that today at a news conference. They had a news conference with Brandon Bean. And it's a results-based business. But how unfair is it for the head coach to take responsibility when really the players are the ones that really have to make the plays?
Well, I think we all understand and know how that goes and how that works. But ultimately, the head coach is responsible for the team and along with the general manager. And so, I feel for a guy like Coach McDermott with Sean and good friend of mine and all that, and the success that he has had there in Buffalo. And oh my goodness, I mean, they just listen, they went up against a team in Kansas City, and they battled Kansas City for so many years in New England when Tom Brady was in New England. And, so there were three of Lamar Jackson. I mean, that same thing in Baltimore. So, yeah, you're right. It does come down to players making plays and especially the quarterback position, taking care of the football and all of that. But at the end of the day, as you said, it's a results business, and how, as coaches, we're paid to push our players to the level of winning a championship. And how do you get your team over that last hurdle to get in, not just get into that Super Bowl, but to win that Super Bowl? And it's just unfortunate that it happens that way. You just can't go out and get another Josh Allen to come in and be your quarterback. You just can't. You don't do that. You don't do that in Kansas City with a Pat Mahomes, or in Baltimore with a Lamar Jackson. And other teams are trying to figure out their quarterback position, and Buffalo has a good one. And so ultimately it's the owner's decision to make it. And if he feels like they need to go in a different direction, then go in a different direction. But they've had a lot of success there, and you can't deny that. And Coach McDermott's been a big part of that.
You look at the last play and the people in Buffalo, and Sean obviously is upset that he lost the game, and the rules is a bad rule. The way that it identifies having to make the completion to the ground, and in honesty, he had a knee down, but that's not to the ground. But how difficult, when you look at that play, is it to officiate? And don't you have to say, and Josh Allen's terrific, but he turned the ball over too many times in the game. You can't let it come down to one play, can you? All those things considered. So how do you look at that?
It's one thing you try to explain to your football team, and this goes all the way back to the off season and training camp, that a football game, okay, let's say it's everybody, we use 65 plays, 70 plays, both offensively and defensively, right? So there's 140 plays or so in a game, but you're in charge of 65, let's say, offensively, and 60 of them are just routine plays. 61 of them are just routine, line up and first and 10 and go play. 4 plays, 3 plays are going to decide the outcome of that football game. That's what it boils down to. And so you're really coaching for those 3 or 4 or 5 plays to make a difference in that football game. And that's where you coach your players to understand these situations. Now, in that case, shoot, who knows? I mean, you could argue that the receiver was down by contact. You could argue that it was an interception. You could maybe argue that it was an incomplete pass. I don't know. It just happened so extremely fast. That's why I appreciate what officials go through, because it's a fast, furious football game, and they have to make decisions in real time. And now they got the luxury of having replay and all that. But again, that last play,
but you can't let one play decide a game, right?
You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to, and you do everything you can to not. But again, flip it. What if you're Denver? There came down to one play, and his guy made a play. So, hoorah, Denver! Because that guy made a play, and Buffalo obviously didn't make the play. But again, you could sit here and argue, one way or the other, whether it was a catch or not, or, interception, the whole thing. But it's a tough thing. And I get it at the end of the game, and you are trying to make a play. My only thing with Josh would be throw it out there a little bit further. You're a big, strong guy. Your receiver had him beat. Throw it a little bit further. I mean, if he throws it a yard further, 2 yards further, it's either a catch for Buffalo or it's an incomplete pass. And then we do something else. So you got to try to find the positive and always try to coach up players because you're going to be in those situations again.
All right, I'm going to go back to Jalen Hurts, and I just thought about that when you talked about him coming out of college. What was it like in the draft room? And I don't think anybody, and maybe Howie did, expected that you would have drafted a quarterback in the second round. How did that go down? And what was the conversation like in the draft room?
Well, we got finished with Thursday night, the first round, and we're sitting there as kind of getting ready for the next day and getting our board readjusted and everything. And we look up and we're talking, and there sits Jalen Hurts still on the board. And we just started having the conversation like, listen, here in the second round, third round, if he's still up there, what do we do? And at the time, we didn't necessarily have a backup that behind, Carson Wentz, and we said, hey, let's bring a guy. If he's there, let's pull the trigger, and myself, Howie, Mr. Lurie, we all were on board with it, and we said, hey, if he's there on Friday, that we would pull the trigger and draft him. So we had those conversations Thursday night. We had them again Friday, heading into the draft, and when we were on the clock, that day, he was still sitting there, and we all said, yeah, let's do it. Let's pull the trigger. But listen, we also had conversations with Carson Wentz too. We didn't want to pull any punches with our starting quarterback and say, hey, we're drafting this guy no, it wasn't about replacing him we're just adding depth to an already good position. Mm-hmm. So we had to have those conversations with Carson, and we did, and he was on board as well. And we made that decision to draft, Jalen on Friday.
Okay. I'm going to conclude with the college, and I know you're not that deep into college, but all this nonsense going on with and it's not nonsense for the players because they're making millions of dollars. It's out of control. But the Duke quarterback is being sued by Duke, Darian Mensah, because he signed a deal, and then now he's deciding there's apparently another deal out there, and he's going to go into the transfer portal, and they filed a 44-page legal document to sue him so he can't go into the portal. It's just one of many things. Andrew Brand mentioned to me, guys, well, they get this. We agreed to give you this, and you agreed to it, and now you're going to take something else. How messed up is college football is really the question. I think, college sports.
Yeah, I think NIL has definitely changed the landscape of college sports. It's now driven by money, which so is the NFL. But I think if the university wins this lawsuit against this player, I think you're going to see more and more lawsuits with universities. I just somewhere, somehow, they're going to have to put parameters on NIL money. I believe that, in my heart of hearts, if I'm a player and I sign a multi-million-dollar deal at a university, I should honor that deal, and I should honor that year and that contract and then see what happens the next year. If it's a multiple year contract, then I need to honor that. And somehow there's got to be parameters and some guidelines with NIL. It's trickled all the way down into high school with high school seniors and juniors that are now signing NIL, deals to play college, play college football. Listen, at the end of the day, do we need players to play? Yeah, we do. But at the same time, you're trying to build a champion. Here we go again. You're trying to build a championship roster. And I look at Indiana. Indiana kind of did it, with going out into the portal with, obviously recruiting their own and went into the portal, NIL, all of that, and put together a pretty good roster. But what was the common denominator there was having an excellent quarterback, and really he was the driving force, the leader of that football team. So if Duke wins this, then I do believe you'll see more and more universities at least trying to keep these high profile players staying on campus.
Doug, you're not coach. Well, you coached in. You told me Hawaii, but do you want to get back into coaching? Is it a burning desire, or if it happens, it happens?
It's Howard. It's still a burning desire. I love the game and love the passion of the game, and I miss the players and obviously the competition of game day and all of that. And I miss that, and that's the part that drives me, to this day to try to get back in. And obviously it's out of my control a little bit. My phone, is sitting right here, and it could ring at any moment for an interview.
I'll call you, but it won't be the right call.
It won't be the right one I'm looking for. But yeah, I mean, you definitely want the opportunity just to sit down in front of teams and really kind of have those conversations as to what are they looking for. Obviously, and the easiest answer is we want to win a championship. Well, we all want to win championships, but it's more than that too, right? It's how do you build a roster and your staff and and all these other things that go with it. And so I'd love the opportunity to sit down and talk with some people, but if it doesn't happen, listen, I'm in a good place. I'm excited for maybe what the future holds, and you got some things, some irons in the fire, so to speak, and we'll see how 2026 plays out.
Well, I hope you're involved in some way, shape, or form. And coaching, obviously, is what you love, and that would be important. But did a good job here in Philadelphia, and people will never forget that. And the Philly special is one thing, but I'm telling you, it's the most exciting game that I think I've ever been around. Was that Super Bowl 52, because the action just didn't stop until the last play. The last play. It was amazing. And I know the coaches graded the defense afterwards, and it was horrible. The grade was horrible for both sides. Yeah, for both sides.
Yeah.
But one of the best parts for me is when New England tried to pull that play off, and Brady didn't extend himself, and it didn't work. It was around midfield somewhere. But the fact that you guys did it and he couldn't do it was great. So that dissed Belichick, that dissed that dissed. There's Eagles players that still believe in that Super Bowl with Andy. That he was doing some shenanigans there. And Brady, I don't know if I told you this story. I'll make it quick. There was an interception in New England by Malcolm Jenkins, 99-yard pick for a touchdown, pick 6. And the equipment guy for New England, this is before all this stuff came out about the deflated footballs. The New England equipment guy, one of the equipment guys, came over and said, "Hey, can we have that?" The guy keeps the football. "Can we have that football? We'll give it back to you after the game." And I didn't think anything of it until after the season, when all that stuff came out. They wanted the football back because they didn't want anybody to notice that the ball was deflated.
It was deflated.
It's just unbelievable. Whatever. Hey, Doug, it's always fun talking to you. Say hello, if you would, to Jeannie, to your kids, and wish you the best. And straighten out that golf game, will you? Get out on the golf course.
I know. I got to get out and play more. Maybe the weather will turn in here in South Florida, so we can get out. But
yeah, we're 20 degrees here if we're lucky. So
yeah, we're right at about 70 right now, so it's not bad.
Okay. Hey, Doug, thanks.
I appreciate you. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Howard. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, and we'll stay in touch. Thanks, Doug Pederson.
Thank you.
Doug Pederson, fun guy. People will never forget him. I think Nick Sirianni's a terrific coach, and he won a Super Bowl. But that Super Bowl 52, I don't think anything can ever replace that Super Bowl 52. Hey, I also, somebody else that I know, as far as I'm concerned, can't be replaced, and that's our presenting sponsor, Stillwell Financial Advisors. Jeff Stillwell does the job. And it's more than just a job to him because he knows what the hell he's doing, investing your wealth for the future and all the craziness that goes on in the country, in the world. He knows what he's doing and he's on top of it all the time. Give him a call just to, find out. He's a regular guy, really good guy. There's the number 732-343-0813. Stillwell Financial Advisors, Jeff Stillwell, and hopefully he can help you out. All right. The other things that I want to talk about today on this show or tonight as we do it is I want to get into the Phillies. And more people are pissed off than anything else with not signing Bo Bichette. And you see, other teams are spending more money. I don't know if that's always the answer, but we're going to talk about that. We'll touch on some of the things with the Eagles. We'll do more of that. But first, I'm excited, and I told you about it at the top of the show today. I'm excited with a new sponsor. I'm always excited when I meet new people and new sponsors. Our newest sponsor, Thomas Chevrolet. And there's so many good things. They're located at 1263 West Baltimore Pike in Media. It's, it's not far off of 452 if you know the area, but 1263 Westchester Pike in Media. That's how you find it. But Thomas Chevrolet, there's so many important things. When I first met the people, and I just went in just to look and nothing else, and then I realized how nice these people were. Thomas Chevrolet is a family-owned business. The owner is there almost all the time. I mean, he does so many things there. And the way they run the business with his family is terrific. They're celebrating 38 years in the business. They have great people. Straight deals, no need to haggle or hassle over the price of your new Corvette. I had a Corvette when I was a kid, and I saw that Corvette, and it brought back great memories. But the Corvette's in there. The Equinox, I haven't driven an SUV for quite a while. My second vehicle is an SUV, but the Equinox, it's the sport model. What a great car. I never knew it. I never knew it, but they have multiple SUVs, the Silverado, the Traverse, or the Tahoe. Speaking of Corvettes, Thomas Chevrolet is certified Corvette specialist dealer. Thomas Chevrolet also has great service. I met a bunch of the guys in the service department. I mean, they'll take care of all makes and models. So you need service. Easy to get to. I mean, real easy to get to. And the service department will take care of everything. Top in the tri-state, they're really good. Let me just tell you, they're really good. Thomas Chevrolet has a great selection of new and pre-owned vehicles at 1263. That's 1263 Westchester Pike in Media. I can't emphasize enough how friendly they are. And when it's a family business, it's different. I just noticed it's different. And you see the vehicles, they're beautiful. I mean, the car I'm driving right now, the Equinox, is really, really, it's a fun car. It's a fun vehicle, and it's enjoyable to see the people. Here's a number to call, 610-566-8600, 610-566-8600, or check them out on the internet, thomaschevy.com. Great people and more great people. That's what I love, to have people that are really, really good people. So, I kind of feel that the business is that way. And that's Piazza Property Pros. Piazza Property Pros does a great job, whether it's the front of your property, whether it's the back of your property. They can do the front as well as the back. And in the back, obviously, you can, if you want a hot tub, if you want a fire pit, if you want landscaping, fencing, hardscaping, whatever it is that you want, pool maintenance, you want to build a pool, you got to think about that now. Piazza Property Pros are really people that can help you out. And again, I like to deal. My partners are really good people. And Piazza Property Pros, with 25 years of experience, they don't subcontract, good people. Check them out. Call them just call to talk. 610-566-2608. Schedule a free consultation. That's 610-566-2608, or check them out on the internet, piazzaoutdoor.com. It is terrific when you have somebody that's fun as a guest and knowledgeable as a guest. And there were so many people I could see on the chat line. I didn't want to put Doug in a bad position. So many people in the chat line. Oh, we want Doug, Doug, we want you to come back as the offensive coordinator. You got to come back as the offensive coordinator. Well, the Eagles, and I'm going to get into that in a second, because I don't think that's the easiest thing in the world for the Eagles to come up with right now. But I want to tell you about a winner from last week who won a pair of Oakley sunglasses. The question was kind of general, so it was more of a we're going to just have you participate. And the winner last week for the Oakley sunglasses, Steve Annucci. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Steve, we asked you a question about something that you had thought was most important of what Mark Lawrence said, and just wanted you to participate. And you were one of the people that did, and we selected you at random. And congratulations, winning the pair of Oakley sunglasses. Now, I'm going to have a question for you tonight to win a gift certificate to Chickies and Pete's. It's a question from Something Doug Pederson Said. Answer the question. Go to the contact page, howardeskin.com, by midnight Friday, January 23rd. Watch a show on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. to see if you've won, live on X, which is, they still call it Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Suggest you subscribe to YouTube, because I know you're always notified when the show comes on live, and it's easy to kind of find, but they're all easy to kind of find. So subscribe, and the winner will be randomly chosen from all correct entries. All right. Now, I want to get into first, I'm going to get into the Phillies, because I got to dig into the Phillies, because these fans are pissed. They are pissed at the Phillies. But the offensive coordinator, I will say this for the Eagles, and everybody wants somebody. I don't think it's a premier job, because whether it's the challenge of the quarterback, and he'll at some point say, well, I've had 7 offensive coordinators in 8 years, and there's always a reason that things didn't get executed. It's a new terminology. Do you really need that? It's not just the quarterback. Your offensive line was good, but wasn't as good as it was, not this season, but the previous season. So you've got to look at Lane Johnson, coming back from an injury. Cam Jurgens didn't have a great year. The right guard was okay. So Tyler Steen, there's so many different things that if you're an offensive coordinator, you're looking like, what can you accomplish? Because they could always say, well, he won a Super Bowl before, didn't win it last year. So I love these people that say, well, the Eagles have had 2 head coaches come out of the offensive coordinator. Yeah, well, the running game's not as good without the offensive line. I don't think it's a premier job for an offensive coordinator to come here. Now, if you can't get another job, it might be the job if you can't get another job in the NFL. So I think it's a tough, Brian Dable could be the next head coach of Buffalo. McDaniels decided to go to San Diego. I don't think it's a premier job, and that's going to be a question. We'll see what happens there. They're probably, they want to go through a lot of interviews, and I get all that. So we'll see what happens with the Eagles and the offensive coordinator. All right. The Phillies. This is brutal. Brutal. That it's the team, and I'm going to come back to this, is really they're running back the team, which is basically the same as last year. The issue was not enough contact in your at-bats. The issue was strikeouts. Did they really change that or fix that? And there's a lot of things that didn't happen. They didn't get Bo Bichette, which has really pissed people off. That offer, and this is what I was told. and I know Bob Nightingale, who's a good reporter, works for the USA Today now, put out the Phillies offered 7 years at $200 million, which is still not enough. But I was told it was 8 years. So, and the Phillies give him his information, but it makes it sound better. Oh, 7 years, it's like an average of what, $28.5 million a year. That's not enough. You've got to read the market. You can't worry about average cost per year. And the Phillies don't do that. But the Phillies saying, and I'm gonna play Dave Dombrowski, and I'm gonna address this after let's hear from Dave Dombrowski talking about losing Bo Bichette.
Can't say that we ever thought it was done, because there's a difference between, we thought we were very close to having a deal done. We thought it was going to happen, but it wasn't done. And so there's a difference between the two. As I've explained to some other people, that it's a situation where in baseball, and agents run things differently between themselves. They do things in different ways. Until you sign a memo of understanding, you don't have a deal done. And we did not sign one of those. And it wasn't that we weren't moving towards that direction. It isn't, didn't think that we were going to get there based upon our conversations, but we did not get to that point. So I can't say that I ever thought we had it done. I did think we were going to get a deal done. And this is not the first time this has ever happened to me. Okay. And sometimes it actually happens more than you would think through free agency and trades. I mean, I've been to many times where I thought we were going to make a trade, and then all of a sudden they go in a different direction. It's a gut punch. I mean, you feel it. That day you are very upset, I guess is the way to say it. But you have to pick yourself off and shake it off. I mean, because you can't just wallow in what took place. So after a day of feeling that way, or a time period, you need to move forward. And so that's how you handle it. And again, it's happened to me more than you could count in your career. And so that's what you have.
I'm telling you, this is, it's ridiculous. Number one, the Phillies made this public. They feed it to people, the house people that write and cover the Phillies, the apologists, and they I call them house people. Oh, the Phillies had a really good meeting. When is the last time when you even tell people, well, if you tell people about a meeting, and the Mets, I was told, met with Bo Bichette's people 3 times before the Phillies thought they had a deal. But telling people, oh, we had a really good meeting. When's the last time you heard either side say, well, that was a really bad meeting. We didn't like that at all. You don't say that. You move on to the next person. But the agent is going to use your offer, and you've got to read the market. The problem the Phillies have right now is they have too many long-term contracts, some of them not good. Bryce Harper, when he was signed, was a great player. He's a good player now. He's not a great player. He's a good player. But it's too long a contract. So you got 6 more years of Bryce Harper. You have, I think, 6 more years of Trey Turner. You have Aaron Nola, at least 3 more years, maybe 4. That was a bad contract. Taijuan Walker, you have 2 more years. And then there's players you're going to have to sign. It's brutal. It's brutal that the Phillies didn't read the market. If you wanted him, you've got to make sure you go out and get him. And they didn't do that. And the Mets, they were there. They already knew what the parameters were. Hey, listen, who is it? Tucker signs today, being Wednesday, $162.5 million for 5 years. First of all, long-term contracts are not what people like 7 or 8 years, but it was 8 years from when I was told. Players don't want that. And Bo Bichette, why does he want to? He wants to be out there again for another contract in 3 or 4 years when he's still young enough to get another big contract. Disgraceful. And Tucker could get another contract, but he got that 5 years. That's because they don't have a chance for another contract. And Bo Bichette has an opt out. So what? He has an opt out. Is the money going to go up that much? I don't think so. But the Phillies misread the market and we're too worried about average cost of the salary per year. And it's brutal because they're locked in to some really not favorable contracts right now, but they're running it back. But Rob Thompson, oh, well, you don't think they're running it back. Listen to his reasoning for not thinking that the Phillies are running it back. Here's the question and his response.
This narrative out there that the Phillies are running it back, and people who say that kind of don't think that's what should have happened, maybe break up the core or something like that. Could this team have a little chip on its shoulder because of that, considering what they achieved last year and the guys you did bring back, had really good years last year?
We're going to have 3 new relievers. We got a new right fielder. We're going to put Crawford. Crawford's going to get every chance to play. We probably got a rookie starting pitcher in Painter. We got Otto Kemp, who wasn't here at the start of last year. So we're turning over 20 to 25% of our roster. So if you think that's turning it back or running it back, whatever the saying is, yeah,
All right, Rob, I'm going to help you. All right? I'm going to help you. It is running it back. 20 to 25% or 22%, whatever the hell he said. It's just Otto Kemp. He counts that as a new player. He was here last year. Your right fielder is a good defensive player, but he's not going to really give you that much offense, and he's going to give you some 20-some home runs, which Castellanos would have probably done. So now you're going to have to eat that contract too. Your infield is the same. Bohm's now got to be at third, which I wanted Bohm back because he's the best contact hitter on the team. Trey Turner at short, Stott at second, Harper at first, and your catcher, which you gave too many years to in a contract, is your catcher. So those guys are the same. So the core of your players, give me that 3 new reliever bullshit. They're middle relievers, Rob. They're middle relievers. They're not impactful to your team. Crawford could be a really good player, but you don't know that because he's a rookie. You're still going to have Marsh platoon. He stinks. He's a 4th or 5th outfielder. Stinks is a harsh word. He's not that good. And think about that trade by Dave Dombrowski. They give up a pretty good catcher who could have been the catcher now, and they would have had to re-sign Realmuto. However, it's just not. And then he brings up Painter. You're bringing up Painter, who did not have a good season, and he was good before he got hurt. And the Phillies, I understand, changed his delivery. And last year, he did not have a good season in the minor leagues. But I'm going to forget about me saying that. I'm going to get you the actual numbers I'm going to use my AI friend again to help us out with this situation with Andrew Painter. And he's counting that as part of the rotation. Rotation would be, I'll give you the rotation, but let's hear what my AI friend has to say about Andrew Painter. All right. Can you tell me the numbers, the statistics for Andrew Painter for the Phillies last year in their minor leagues in 2025?
Checking Andrew Painter's 2025 minor league stats. Yeah, Andrew Painter was coming back from Tommy John in 2025. So he started slow in Single-A Clearwater before getting promoted to Triple-A Lehigh Valley. In 4 starts with Clearwater, 0-2, 3.97 ERA, 11 1/3 innings, 12 strikeouts, just 1 walk. Then at Lehigh Valley, 22 starts, 5-6 record, 5.40 ERA, 106 2/3 innings, 111 Ks, 46 walks. Combined for the year, 5-8, 5.26 ERA over 26 starts, 118 innings pitched, 123 strikeouts, 47 walks, and a 1.49 whip. It was a bit of a rusty return, but the stuff was still there. He's only 22.
but his walks were not good. He did not have as good a control. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, you're spot on. 47 walks in 118 innings is an elite command, especially for a guy with his talent. Control slipped a bit post-injury, but that's common after coming off surgery. Give it time, he'll sharpen up.
Okay, well, he's not going to have much time here in Philadelphia, but fans will be a little patient. But thanks for your help.
Anytime. Fingers crossed he turns it around quick. Philly fans won't wait forever.
They won't wait a little bit, but thanks for your help. That's my friend from AI. Broke it down. His ERA was over 5. So this is one of the 4 starters. Here's your starting rotation, because I would doubt that Zach Wheeler, and it's too bad he had that surgery. That's a serious injury. I would doubt he'd be back for the start of the season. So your rotation will be Sanchez, Luzardo, probably Aaron Nola, who's probably no better than a 4 starter now, will be 3. Painter would probably be 4. And at 5, you got that stud Tyron Walker. Maybe you're not even, hey, Rob, maybe you're right. The Phillies aren't running it back. They're not as good as last year. The Braves will be better. The Mets will be better. I think the Phillies window for a World Series championship has passed. Now you have the trade deadline, and I don't know what you're going to do, and Zach Wheeler, when he comes back, somebody pointed up, I think it was a baseball person told me, Pedro Martinez had that surgery, and when he came back, it was with the Phillies, and you saw it when he pitched in that, what was it, the 2009 World Series, I think it was. He didn't have velocity. Pedro Martinez lost about 10 miles an hour off his fastball. If Zach Wheeler loses that, he's just not as good. He's just not as good. And you feel bad for him. You can't do anything about an injury. But so, Rob, no, you're right. You're not running it back. Those new players aren't going to do a lot for you, but you're not as good as you were last year. At least not right now, not in a lot of people's opinions. And I think Phillies fans are pissed. And you should be pissed. You got to do better than that. I know John Middleton has the other owners he has to convince to spend that money. And although John Middleton may want to spend that money, stop with this average cost and spreading out the contracts so your average per year is not that good. It doesn't work anymore. You did it with Bryce Harper because his agent wanted that, to have the biggest contract in baseball when he signed, and he did for 5 minutes. He signed for what, $330 million, and then Mike Trout signed for $450 million. So for 5 minutes, he had the biggest contract. But whatever. All right, let me give you a couple of things I want to say. Mark Lawrence will be on with us on Saturday. We'll take a look at the weekend football. He'll mix some basketball in, but also I will post my picks, which again, I thank you for your donations, which helps so much. Brandywine Valley SPCA and Providence Animal Center, and they do great things with the doggies. You can adopt anytime you want. Get the dogs and cats a home. And it's just, it's important, but I'll post that on Saturday. But also, let me give you a question to win the Chickies and Pete's gift certificate. I talked to Doug Pederson about the Super Bowl, and we all remember the Philly special. It's an iconic moment, But I asked Doug, what was the play, if you eliminate that play, and that was the play most people remembered, but that was still, only in the second quarter. What was the play that he remembers probably as much, if not more, than that play, and was very, very important in that game? The play next to that, the number one play next to that. Answer that question. Submit your entry to my website, howardeskin.com, the contact page. And if there's multiple answers that are correct, which I'm sure there will be, we'll select somebody at random. We'll announce it. You do that by midnight on Friday, January 23rd, and on Saturday, the 24th, the next morning, we'll have a winner, and we'll announce you live on X, Twitter, same thing. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And I always suggest you subscribe to YouTube. Winner will be randomly chosen from all the correct entries. So you got the question. What play besides the Philly special that he think it's the one that he most remembers and the most important? And it's one and the same. I saw somebody here on the Steve Fitz Capizzi. I hope you don't mind mentioning. Is that all? I guess Steve Fitz Capizzi, whatever. Do you think Utley has a chance next year for the Hall of Fame? He has a chance, but I don't think he's a Hall of Famer ever. I don't think if you look at his numbers, Chase Utley is not a Hall of Famer. He had maybe 6 good years out of all those years, didn't have 2,000 hits. Home runs don't say anything. He was an average to below average defensive second baseman, smart player. Fans loved him, but he's not a Hall of Famer. I don't know that Jimmy Rollins is a Hall of Famer, but Jimmy Rollins is certainly more of a Hall of Famer than Chase Utley. Chase Utley, it's now become in Philadelphia a popularity contest. Chase Utley, the Hall of Fame is special. Chase Utley was a good player, not a special player. Under 300 home runs. There's nothing about his numbers that say he was a Hall of Famer. He won a World Series. That's great. Or he was on a World Series winning team. He's great. Didn't have an MVP. Why is this Chase Utley love for the Hall of Fame? And he gets more votes than Jimmy Rollins, which I think is a disgrace. And Jimmy, I don't know that Jimmy's not a Hall of Famer, but I don't know that he is. But he's certainly more of a Hall of Famer, than Chase Utley. That's ridiculous. So I appreciate all you people with your messages on the chat line. I appreciate you watching and listening to the show, and I appreciate you certainly being here and thanking our guest tonight, Doug Pederson. Great. And I want to thank our partners, Stillwell Financial Advisors, Jeff Stillwell. Great. I want to thank our new partner, and Thomas Chevrolet. I'm really enjoying the people. I enjoy the vehicle. I didn't know. But the Equinox, people have heard about it. It's a sport model, the Equinox, but they have some great vehicles, great people, and you'll get a great selection of new and pre-owned cars. And Piazza, always thank Piazza for being with us, as well as Stillwell Financial Advisors. Thank you. Thanks to Joe Gangemi for being on the other side doing the technical part. And thanks to Tony Anastasia for all the graphics and all the things she does on the site and all the graphics we have on the show. And thank you for joining and riding with the King, the Howard Eskin Show.